Boardroom, Chapter 11, Part A, 4100 BC. Bells and his western faction, as some called it, had agreed temporarily and voluntarily to all move to G1313 until further talks could be had. This agreement was reached at the Charcoal Line's summit, but despite Junior, Pop's, and Gabe's urging, Bells and all of his faction refused to sit back down at the table. Gabe's actions at this summit had propelled him into the leadership role for the Eastern faction. Time had passed, but Bells and the rebels stood firmly unified against Pops. Occasionally correspondence was passed one way or the other, but the rift had grown wider and wider. The West demanded equality, the East submission to the old way. Spirit had gone over and talked to Bells. If anybody could sway someone, she could do it. But Ed and Knapp and Luke got wind of it, and the meeting ended up being brief and futile. Word was out that the West was working on some weaponry. Though outnumbered 2-1 and with no supreme power on their side, they did have some great minds. If Luke had gotten Junior to join at the elegant steak Solera, things would be different, in fact close to even. Military meeting after military strategic meeting took place as the greatest minds in the West worked feverishly on weapons development. G1313 was a large galaxy and now had the surname Milky Way because of its configuration. In every corner, weapons were under development. Bells called it Fortress 13. By the year 4100 AD, or BC, it had become apparent to all the angelic horde that the Fortress 13 might actually be impregnable. Gabe's army and even Junior were becoming concerned. But Bells and the Fortress 13 boys and girls continued to build and develop. They were coming to a sense of their own invincibility. Angels did possess awesome power. They could fly at the speed of light and harmonic into a limitless speed mode whenever they chose. They could move massive amounts of material and had sent multiple raiding parties to various outposts in the universe where they knew stores of raw material existed. Gabe had wanted to arrest these parties, but Pops had said no. He said little, but did give an occasional directive, but only when asked. He had stopped all creating and designing. He just sat up on Orion, usually in dead silence. Spirit consoled him and also encouraged all the other Eastern Angel factions. They did their usual tasks, but these were few and far between, with so little going on. Bells and his boys urged attack, but Luke and the others wanted to hold off until they were fully ready. All knew they must be ready for any counterattack, and all expected there would be such. 3 legions were planted around Fortress 13 on G1313. Though not a true siege, these legions were a place to keep an eye on things. They had intercepted a few raiding parties, and Bell's army had become a little short on supplies. But they had really maxed out on technology and were now certain they had superior weaponry, enough so that their weapons would balance out the East's 2-1 superiority of angelic soldiers. It was also becoming clear to both sides and to Pops that Bells would at some point open up an attack. Reconnaissance by stealth angels had estimated the West force at about equal to the East. It appeared to Bell's spies that half of the Gabe's force would be held in reserve, but the spies could not tell where they were being kept. Ed said that if they chose a surprise all-out blitz attack, they could wipe out the first half of Gabe's army and then hunt down the second half. All were confident, but the 2-1 deficit in strength was clearly a concern for all of Bell's officers. The overcrowding on G1313 had led to a fair bit of infighting and strife. While Bells looked to the army, Luke became judge and jury. Several of the fights had led to serious injury, and in 4102, one angel died. No one in the entire universe had seen death, and the grieving was widespread even in the Eastern camp. Luke went up to see Pops under a flag of truce to talk face to face, but Pops wouldn't offer any help. The outrage on those that gave in and returned to Pop's fold was fierce and unrelenting. But every Western angel took a vow to see Pops die. Several attempts were made to try and take Junior hostage, but all failed. He was at the front, but only as an observer. Gabe was commanding, and the army had formed a battle line surrounding the constellation of Orion. But Gabe was less than happy. He had heard of the superweapon the West had built and also was constantly requesting more reserves. He determined that as they had twice as many angels on their side, they must use all their forces to repel what was certain to be a ferocious attack from Bell's force. Gabe knew this would be no easy victory. He suspected if his East forces lost, Pops would likely dream up some new weapon and simply destroy both the Eastern and Western forces. Destroy them all, and just start over. But he also realized the same problem would come up if Pops created another set of angels, or whatever type of being he chose to replace his rebellious angels with. There would be questions again and again, and another rebellion of some sort would happen. He didn't see any resolution to it at all. He expected it would be helped greatly if his Eastern boys won, but Gabe still wasn't sure of his own army. Once this rebellion was quelled, would another break out in his own ranks? Where would it all end? Why couldn't everyone just be happy like it used to be?